Welcome to the JD Show. The purpose of this show is to help you implement on your ideas and dreams. And today we have with us a very special guest. It's Sukhi Wahiwala. He actually became a millionaire by the age of 21 and a multi-millionaire by the age of 25. He's also the judge at the Forbes 30 Under 30. So help me welcome Sukhi sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for having me here.
So, share with us, how did you start in business? Where did it all start?
Oh, wow. That's actually a really lovely question to ask. But the reality is that I'm a genuine believer of that whatever I do in life is not actually myself achieving or doing anyway. So I want to put that pre-frame at the start. So I use the word I only for a focus point. But the reality is that I owe it all to our maker, whether we think as a universe, God, whichever you want to go through that process, or alternatively, the other my version of them would be my parents, both my mum and my dad. So with them, I kind of started around about 16, 17, that sort of age group, and I took over one of our original businesses that was in Peterborough. It was a hardware store, principally. It was an Aladdin's cave, if you think about it. And I think I owe all of my life, all of my expectancy to my family upbringing and the good fortune and the pattern that we've had from a child, from being 7 generations in business. That's where our success comes from. And myself, I ran the very first business I ran single-handedly in the sense of spearheaded, but I still had my team because that's key to success. Leverage and understanding it's not just your hourly rate. Was a hardware store. So that was way back in 1990, maybe just slightly that sort of time frame. I'm dating my age for here very quickly. But basically it was a hardware store, and from that hardware store, I sort of spawned another 2 businesses. One was wholesale pots, pans, and the other one was mobile phones. In those days, it was quite early. It wasn't this sort of like this modern haberdashery style of mobile phone industry. In those days, it was very much about high-level connections, corporate connections, and you get paid quite handsomely for that. So it was a different business. And I took over one of the hotels as well. So I didn't hang about.
Okay, so share with us how did it, so the emotional factors I want to talk about, because a lot of people struggle with the emotional ups and downs in their life. I've actually observed a lot of people who are very proactive when they're running businesses, but it's when they are stuck emotionally somewhere, they wake up, they want to get something done, but they're emotionally kind of low on that point. How do you deal with that in your personal life?
Okay, so this is a great question. I think it's very poignant to understand something that the mindset is everything. So we're talking about low points and focus and things of that nature. But if you aren't okay up here, if you have no control over your mind, then really you have no control over the world. And that's actually said by Guru Nanak, which is one of our forefathers and the founder of the Sikh faith itself. I apologise in advance, and maybe some listeners here who don't have the God-centric view of life. In which case I apologise, but to me God is the universe at the same context as being, it's the same energy, whether it's universe, ether, whether we talk about quantum physics, it's the same principle, even collective consciousness. So apologies if I occasionally mention it, but it's not out of abrasion. The reality is that I think if we manage our emotion, because there's a gentleman called Alfred Korzybski who wrote a book around circa 1932-33, and he wrote a book called Science and Sanity. And in that book, he says very, very specifically that us as humans are nothing more or nothing less than meaning-making machines. So the moment a meaning is made, an automatic action takes place. So if we just take that one simple understanding, so I try to keep things really simple. Complexity within itself stops action. Does that make sense?
That's true.
So the simplicity of actions, the clarity, is what assists your action taking. If that's what we're talking about. Whether it's buying your first property, whether it's raising the first capital, whether it's trying your first development, it doesn't make a difference what it is, whichever industry. And I know this is a property-centric group, so I'm talking in that context. But all of these thoughts and processes are based upon simplicity. If you can keep your mindset clear, simple, you will have a higher effort or a higher outcome or ratio as you're taking action. We call this the prefrontal cortex. I'll talk about that in a moment. The moment you split that prefrontal cortex by taking multitasking to actions, it will ruin your ability to take that action. Okay, so Korsipsky says that the moment we make a meaning in our life, that means as soon as I realize that I want to do something based upon an emotion, there's an automatic action to do or not to do. Action to not do is exactly the same as action to do.
That's true.
So that they're both principally the same.
Yeah.
So the answer is that we're always taking action. And this is one of the myths that we need to bust in a lot of our entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and want to be entrepreneurs coming from professional backgrounds, who I work with very, very specifically. There's an automatic assumption that we don't take action if we're not doing something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's a fable. That's not true. The reality of life is that you are always taking action to do or not to do something.
Not to do something, yeah.
So if you decide not to make the jump from your professional career into your own entrepreneurial career, that's still taking action. The action is I've chosen to stay in business, to stay in employment. And vice versa. If you're taking the jump into business, then again you've taken that action in there. So please don't do yourself out of that mindset. That's, I'm sure.
Don't put yourself down, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the key here is not to degenerate your ability to accept positive movements. Does that make sense? So how does that help an individual? Because if I now realise the biggest myth that needs to be busted is the fact that I'm always taking action, whether I decide not to do something or not. All I now need to do is just to hone it towards something that serves me. Does that make sense? Instead of just doing anything and nothing.
That's right.
So you want to be in a position where something serves you. So if it serves you to stay in employment, then that's the right action.
Yeah.
And you're still taking it.
Yeah.
But if you've taken that decision to move forward in a different direction, I didn't say in life, I said move forward in a different direction, then, and only then, you must commit to whichever you go. Does that make sense? So actions are always foiled, ruined, or reduced based upon complexity. Because what we do is the complexity of the unknown. If we don't know something, what we do is we start to add reasons behind it, and then we start thinking, actually, that could go wrong, and that could go wrong, and that could go wrong. So they're the kind of ways that people stop themselves.
So leading to the same answer that you gave, how does one shred the layers of complexity and keep it simple, or bring simplicity to the process of taking that decision? How does one do that?
Do you know, your question is brilliant. This is so helpful, I'm sure, to people who are slightly stuck in life. It's really simple. I've spoken about it on the TED platform as well. So if you Google my name, Sukhi Wahiwala, and TED, you will see there's I'm so proud, there's over 110,000 people, so thank you for your support, who have viewed the video, and it's growing every single day. In there I cover a 7-step process, which is called the DFT method. And the DFT method stands for direct, focused thought. But to give it a daily energy, we've changed the methodology and being open with yourself to daily focused time. And the daily focused time is when you actually design yourself to take quantitative action, action towards something quantitative. So it's a 7-step process. Now I'm happy to go through that with you for your audience if that helps.
Yep.
And what will happen is the 7-step process aligns your conscious thinking, your cognitive activity, and your unconscious heart, or what we call heart center, how we actually really truly feel things, and we know whether it's right or wrong. Does that make sense? So it's actually connecting what we call heart, the head and the spirit together. Does that help? So the principle behind this is to ensure that we are aligned with all the actions that we're taking. Do we plan it? Do we believe it? And the belief comes from here, and the cognitive activity comes from here. The strategy, the logic, the process that you're going to follow. So, the DFT method, if I can cover this very clearly, I'm happy to share this with the team because it's here, it's for your tribe, it's here for an open...
I will actually direct people towards that methodology because I'd love to read more in depth about it. So I'll direct the audience towards that.
So, okay, so thank you very much for directing them. And what I'll do is just split up 7 steps, okay? So 7 clear steps. It requires a few pre-frames, if I can go through them, if it's okay, Jack. Pre-frame 1 is to understand that I'm always taking action. That needs to be very clear. The question is, I am taking action, but what action am I taking? Is it something that's serving me today, which is my present, or is it something that was serving me in my past, or is this something that's serving me in my future plan? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to also put a little covenant here, very caveat here, very, very clearly, and state that I don't subscribe to the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
I subscribe to single thinking, which is basically what we classify in my methodology as a salient present. So you're always in the now. There's no such thing as the past, it's an imagination.
Yeah.
And the future is also an imagination. So I purposefully keep it towards a salient present. Salient meaning like a sailing ship. Even though it's on the same coordinate, it's still moving up, down, left, right, and centre with the seas, waves, and ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So it's moving with that as it goes through. So the principal understanding is that if you're planning your future, you should think about expansions. And if you're thinking about your present, you need to think about the now, the nitty-gritty, much more detailed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the pre-frame is that we're always taking action. The second pre-frame that's really important to understand is one of the biggest numbing reasons why people don't take any steps towards their own personal benefit in the future is because they're multitasked. Now, multitasking has within itself, and it's a dreaded multitask, and I'm telling you, you need a hashtag no more multitasking. But multitasking kills activity.
Wow.
Multitasking kills productivity. Multitasking kills conversions, like your power over your mind. It destroys all this. So if anybody who's listening maybe feeling as though sometimes they're losing their focus quite regularly, or they're saying they're going to do something, they don't follow through, or they have a problem with airing themselves clearly, I guarantee you it's probably based upon a very simple fundamental of multitasking. Now, multitasking is a myth. It's a myth. You can't actually multitask.
That's true.
Most people assume they can multitask. So if I can share a little bit about that. So basically, when we were talking about the multitasking, we were talking about multitasking as a whole. Multitasking is when you perceive that you're doing 2 tasks competently, or 3 tasks competently, or even 4 tasks if you're a healed multitasker, and then 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 in some cases. Some people, some like 15, 16 tasks, they've got them open at the same time. Mm-hmm. And they have this flow of percepting an illusion that they think that they are multitasking. Does that make sense? So I had this lovely conversation once when I was on stage, just after my Forbes judging, and I had a group of individuals in Slovakia. And one of my very private, we run an organisation across the globe that's called basically Inspired Business Club. Mm-hmm. It's actually, if I can just share, it's an it's an online platform. So if you like what I talk about and something, just go to www.inspiredbusiness.club. And at this precise minute, I'm a bit of a loony bin at the moment because it's actually free. Yep. We don't charge anything for it at all. So to get involved, there's training, education, community, there's lots of stuff online. It's a very humble place to be.
I'm actually a part of that group, and it's an amazing, amazing group. You must join.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jack. And so I was standing there, and this is a formulation of live events as well. So once a month we do a live event under the IBC, Inspired Business Group Club, and I was in Slovakia when I was delivering one of these IBCs, and in specific, one of my very high mentees over there. She's a thought leader. She thinks specifically in assisting, and her focus is assisting people who are, could say basically women, but in the Baltic states, it's a very different environment. We've just come out from the curtain, 26, 27 years, out of the curtain of communism. Yep. So it's a very different flavour of inspiration in that space. So just to the point of multitasking, if I can, basically we were sitting and having this discussion, and I delivered new material around multitasking, and I just need to put this pre-frame in, which is obviously I'm going to be talking about the DFT method in a moment, and this is a part of it, but I said it is humanly impossible to multitask. And at this particular point, whenever I'm speaking, I have to stop there, because you're probably thinking the same right now, and thinking, what a lie, I multitask every single day. Well, God bless you as well, so good for you. I'm not suggesting that I'm right, but I'm just going to explain it in a different way, and then maybe you might see it the way I see the world. So, multitasking as a whole is an impossibility. And so she said, I don't believe that, Sukhi. She goes, I don't subscribe to it. She goes, I multitask every single day. And I said, absolutely brilliant, no problem. I said, so do you mind just giving me an example of what you classify as being multitasking? She said, well, and this is her view of life, not a stereotypical view. And she said, well, because I live on my own, I have my own flat. She goes, when I'm ironing, I don't like to sit there and iron on my own. I don't particularly like just to be ironing. She goes, I'm quite happy to put a serial on or a series and watch TV and watch and iron and wash and stuff at the same time, the house stuff. And I said, that's brilliant. Now, just visualize something, and I said, just visualize your favourite TV program running, okay? So the TV's running, and you've got the iron in your hand, yeah? So at that particular time, you're ironing a shirt, a dress, or whatever it is. Now I'm going to ask you to hold. Just pause a second. If we take 1 second, that's 1, 1, 1, 1. If we take 1 second and we just stretch it, hold it open, and just stretch it out to 5 seconds. So now we've got 0.2 of a second in the same stretch. So I just want to see, just to stretch it out. Just so we can see where exactly is my real focus at that particular moment. What am I actually thinking of? Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if we split it and open it up like so, at that split second when somebody in your series specifically, and I apologize because I'm going to use a 1980s pun here to show you my age, when JR from Dallas got shot, at that moment when he got shot on stage, when he was in the video, were you actually focusing on the TV or were you focusing on your ironing? Now, just to slow it down, at that very second when you have a crease that's not disappearing, when you're sitting there straightening the iron and popping some steam onto it, are you actually really concentrating consciously on what's happening on the TV, or are you actually ironing the crease? Right, so the answer is this: it is not possible to consciously multitask. You, at that split second when you're looking at when a person specific happened, whether it's JR or whether it's Den who got shot in the East End in the 1980s, when he got shot, when they got shot, your focus is over there, and you could have been sitting there burning the hole. That split second going, oh my god, or you could have just lifted the iron up, and you definitely were not ironing at exactly the same split second. And vice versa, when you have a collar that's not being ironed properly, there's no way that you're in that crease and thinking about the TV session. Does that make sense?
Yes, I agree with that. So that's a great example. Yeah.
Thank you. And the proof behind this has been done by the highest and the greatest. You know, you can see if we go from England first, then you've got the British Psychology College, the University of Psychology, the School of Psychology. They've checked this information way back in 2013, 2015, and basically they've come up with the understanding that it's not possible to multitask. And I'm going to frighten people just a little bit here. If you think you are multitasking, you're actually reducing your efficiency to get whatever you're doing right. So the moment you're in a sales environment, let's just translate this a second. If you're doing large deals, if you're in the middle of doing a deal here, Jack, you're just about to sell a £1 million box to somebody. At that precise minute, somebody gives you a call, and you have just got to the right purpose point where, let's say, I was buying that property from you, and I'm just about to say, yes, I think this is a great one. At that split second, if you add another call in your head, and your brain starts to half think about that as well, we call this the prefrontal cortex of your brain, it gets split. Yeah. And the moment you split your prefrontal cortex, immediately you have reduced your capability to close the deal by 50% straight away. Guaranteed, every single time. Immediately you now cannot close the deal. Because the only time you can close a deal is when you're in it 100%. When you're in that moment of closing that deal. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
So, the moment you add, if you're finding a hit and miss environment when you're making sales and you're sometimes making a sale, sometimes losing the sale, sometimes making the sales, this is truly because of the one thing that I guarantee you're multitasking at the same time. So do yourself a favour and stop multitasking. So now I'm going to give you another fear factor here. This is very important to understand. This is all the pre-frame of DFT, by the way. Multitasking actually reduces your IQ. And it is scientifically proven since 2010 by Harvard, MIT, Yale, York, everybody you can think of in the American hemisphere, they have proven it reduces your IQ level. Now, let me make it really simple because I don't want to complicate things. Why would it reduce your IQ? At this particular point, I've usually got a tomato, one or two thrown at me from the stage. So I'm really glad, Jack, there's just you, me in the room and there's just that camera.
I really want to hear this because I do this all the time. I try and focus and I lose focus and I come back into focus, but I'd love to hear this.
Well, you yourself are going to benefit so much with God's blessings, with the methodology I'm going to give you in a second. It's a 7-step process, but this is all the preamble that's necessary to get that point. Okay, so we're now talking about multitasking, and we're talking about action taking, we're thinking about how we get distracted, all these little elements in there, yes? So one of the key things that we're specifically talking about is the understanding that I can't concentrate on two different things at the same time. So my IQ, what I classify, I'm very proud to say I'm a very high IQ person. I'm not, but I'm just saying I'm the dimmest person you could think, with humility. Because the moment I think I am something, I'm furthest away from that point myself. So our Sikh religion, but in specific, let's go, I'll correlate, if I may, to a gentleman called Dr. Barn. The moment, the second, his quote was basically, Einstein said, if anybody truly understands quantum physics on this earth, on this planet, in a living form, then it's Dr. Barn, 1981, from Germany. And he was the gentleman who, you understand, his methodology was his scientific evidence is the base of things such as Through the Rabbit Hole, or what we classify as quantum physics based upon the observation effect. And I'm not going to talk about that right now because it's a long concept there, and I'm happy to talk about that. It's the kind of the stuff that I get up to. And he said that Einstein said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, I do apologise, which wasn't planned. He says that if anybody on this earth understands quantum physics truly, then it's Dr. Barn. So Dr. Barn, in a very humble recital return comment, said, I'm truly, truly, truly grateful for being identified by one of the greatest thinkers of our time and our generation, as being the titled individual saying that I understand quantum physics. And he says something really humbly, and he said, it's not just humility, he was actually being scientific. He said, the more that I think I understand something, the further away from it I truly am. That's quite a loop control. Because he now talks about the observation. He's saying the more I think on something, I'm transferring my body, my focus, my energy onto that thing. So I've already infected it anyway. So how could I be understanding it if I'm infecting it, if I'm affecting it, if I'm putting an influence on it in the first place? Does that make sense? So in the context of this, if we go back to IQ, if I can, just to bring that into conversation, your IQ will drop because you're training your brain not to complete things. Because when you multitask, you're making a simple understanding in your conscious brain towards your unconscious brain, which I call over here, apologies for hitting the mic, then get a little pop. The conscious and the unconscious brain, you're basically training your unconscious brain, because the unconscious brain is like a genie. If you ask it to do something, it will just say, bubble up and say, yes, of course, I'm brilliant at this. Okay, great, you're brilliant at this. I'm not so good at this. Okay, I'm not so good at this. So be very aware of the words you say, I am. Anything you say after I am should be positive and supportive of your mindset. This is one of the things that holds people into procrastination, is that, oh, I am not so good at X. Then it increases the ability for your unconscious brain to bubble up and create this reality of you're not good at that. Does that make sense? So in a humble way, always keep an eye on your language as well. So the IQ drops because you train your brain to start something and juggle, if you understand, the plate, spin the plate, and then you're training your brain to accept it's okay to spin another plate, and then spin another plate. So what happens is you get into a habit, in a very humble way, of spinning these plates consistently without completing any one of them in any one particular time frame. This actually causes procrastination, because you don't complete anything, so you don't want to start. Plates are dropping. You can't get to it in time. So it's fallen, it's smashed. Now that the whole effort you put into putting the plate there, selecting the plate, spinning the plate, has all gone into waste. So let's make it more relevant. If you're in the middle of starting a property deal, and you start another property deal, and then you're starting to sell another one, or you're in life and you're starting to decide to take action within moving into your own business or staying in employment, and then you half do both of it, what happens is you train your brain to not complete. And in essence, you're kind of telling yourself, it's okay, don't worry, you don't have to complete it. It's okay to start something but not finish. And that's not my world. That's not how I've built my world, or how God has allowed me to build that. To me, it's about the completion. So I have a methodology within the DFT method, which says that the only way you truly learn is to teach others. And if you don't teach others, you can't teach if you haven't completed something. And the moment you complete it and you teach somebody else, it adds to your value, it adds to your knowledge. And only that second is when you've become a higher IQ'd individual. So if your habits are within not completing things, what happens there is that you reduce your ability to learn anything.
Yeah.
Because you think you're learning it, but you don't have the foundation understanding. Yeah. And this usually happens when you can see some people are like butterflies. They're not. Because a butterfly, when it flies, it doesn't fly in what we classify as a rhythmic format, because it's designed to flutter randomly so that the bird can't judge where the butterfly is going, because obviously that's its prey. Yeah. So we then become this butterfly that moves around the place and has a random attitude towards life. That's not great for keeping a consistent outcome or to close a deal. Does that make sense? It's very disturbing. Yeah. And these are all the things that stop people from taking action. I hope this is helping a little bit. So the IQ drops. So my question typically goes is, why would you like to make yourself dimmer or drop your IQ? And I'd say I'd live to learn. Does that make sense? The whole philosophy of the Sikh is to, if I can... Is it
of course, yeah.
So, again, apologies, I am a Sikh and I can't kind of separate from myself, so it's the core of my success, so if I may share that humbly. Basically, if you pronounce it in English, it'll say Sikh. Yeah. If you pronounce it in Punjabi, which is the mother tongue of the Sikhs in Punjab in India, you would say Sikh. Yeah. So now, to Sikh means to learn. Now, a learn is one thing. Then if you pronounce it, just a little play on words here, by the way, which is not a reality. If I play it upon the English, and I say to you, I'm a Sikh, then to seek is to find as well. Yeah. Right? So both of them have an open-ended discussion to seek and to learn. So we bring them both together, so we're in a constant frame of being a student. Yeah. And so our actual real purpose in life is to take knowledge and integrate the knowledge and learn from it and move forward. Yeah. And that's principally the reason why I'm always in that space of completions. Because without completing, I can't learn.
Yeah, I think what I'm learning here is just so much value to, especially me. It's a great moment for me. So within the same context, how does one have more clarity? How does one gain more clarity into what is it that they should be or doing in their life or must be doing in their life, and integrating those into the daily habits? How does one really do that? How does that really work?
Now, this is where, thank you for asking the clarity question, because this is where, without clarity, that means a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve as an end goal. That's principally what clarity means. Clarity doesn't mean anything else. It means, do I actually know what I'm trying to achieve? And if I've got that end goal in mind, I can find simple steps to achieve it. Okay, so this is where the DFT method comes in. So we've understood that we can't multitask. We've understood that if we don't complete, we reduce our own IQ, and then we also demotivate ourselves to take the action in the first place. Is that fair?
Yes.
So now the question arises, which is my opinion, under the method of the syllabus method that I've created, which is a very private methodology that I'm creating practitioners for and understanding, so people can get people into what we call the snapping effect of getting stuff done. The reality is this, that it's the DFT 7 steps. That aligns your head and your heart. Heart being intuition, the spiritual understanding, or really the feeling and the emotion, and the head being the logic, the strategy, the structure. How can you align these two things together? Because the moment, the second those two things align, action happens. Yeah. Korzybski's word, meaning-making machines. Yeah. The moment you make a meaning is when there's an automatic action. Well, meaning is only made when your conscious brain and the unconscious emotion are aligned. Okay? So we have to align these two elements for us to take a positive, engrossed activity that enriches our life. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so 7 steps are really simple. If I can share them with yourself now, it's DFT time. So one of the final things that needs to be looked at when it comes to how the advent of sort of like multitasking destroys your actionability is to realize that if I start something and I teach myself, I am my last action or my last thought. Because your last thought is evolving yourself. There is a methodology called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is basically when somebody actually rewires their body. It was actually realized when people had strokes, so they may lose the usage of a left arm or something. And so in order to start to grab the left arm again or grab a cup or something, they would think of something and it would maybe twist something else in their arm. So they would retrain their brain to think of different things and repattern it to make it look as though it's picking up the cup again. Yeah. So it's like rewiring your wiring to do the same outcome. So neuroplasticity is a very deep topic, so please have your own thoughts on this. Dr. Linda Boyd from the University of British Columbia in Canada is one of the leading individuals on this, and she's also shared on the TED platform like I have as well with the DFT method, and just have a watch of it if you want any time. But basically that means we rewire ourselves every single time we take an action or think of something consciously. We become our last thought. So every time we think we can do something, that becomes our reality. And it rewires the brain to say, that's what's possible. And the moment we think we cannot, that also rewires our activity and changes our ability. So why does multitasking ruin the activity? Is because you actually train your brain not to complete, and you become a starter and not a finisher. Does that make sense? You become uncommittal is the word that we're looking for. So we rewire it, repatterning, and then our IQ drops because we train ourselves not to complete anything. And when we don't complete, we don't learn, and then thus we can't ingest the information. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we lose our IQ ability. So this is proven by all the methods and the stuff that I've already mentioned before. So I think it's very important to realise that the quicker you can get out of multitasking, that means conscious cognitive multitasking, because all changes created unconscious, consciously. Even when you think about meditation, getting relaxed and getting focused, you can't get into the meditative state unless you are consciously thinking of getting into the meditative state. So the conscious brain, the thought, is your trigger. Your unconscious brain is the doer, and then the thought again cognitively acknowledges the completion of that task. Does that make sense? So it says, yes, I'm going into meditation. I'm triggering the meditation, I go into meditation, and when you come out of meditation, you say, I've just come out of meditation. So you have to have those two anchors of consciousness at the end.
Yes.
That's when we know we've done something, and that's when we educate ourselves, and that's when we grow our IQ, when we've realised we were looking for something and we found it.
Yes.
So as you look for something, you start it and don't complete it. This within the Synergist method, which is the method that I've very humbly authored, with God's grace, is called unconscious consciousness. And it sounds very complicated, but it's not. It's just the 3 steps. It's being conscious about your trigger, unconsciously creating the change through neuroplasticity, and then consciously accepting and acknowledging that change has happened. I hope I'm not boring everybody.
No, it's the value and the knowledge that you're sharing. People who are listening to this, I can assure you that there are certain strategies or certain techniques that Sukhi sir is sharing here. I've actually used them in my personal life, and it has changed my life so much. So you must listen and implement those techniques and strategies that Sukhi sir is sharing with us. So within the same context, and I know you're talking about the DFT method, and I'm asking you a question based on that, which is, how does one deal with the emotional ups and downs, or the emotional blocks that we have to be more successful in life, so getting more done when it comes to getting things, really the execution part of getting things done? People really get, they kind of stop, they can't really implement things because there's emotionally overwhelmed, basically. How does the DFT method help in that?
Brilliant question. Perfect timing as well, I think.
Yeah.
So how this works is basically we understand all the preambles. So if you've just joined us now, rewind it please and watch the start, because it's very important to get this point. So the DFT method, which stands for Daily Focused Time. This is about getting yourself into a focused environment of getting stuff done. This is like when you're in a position where, I'm sure you've had these scenarios in life where you know you've got to do something, but you're just procrastinating, not doing it. Or you'll look for other low-hanging fruit that you can take action with. For example, you may assume that you've got to send off a really important email at the desk and you're about to send it off, but you think, oh, hang on a second, the desk is dirty, and you start cleaning the desk as well, instead of getting the work that you're supposed to have done. Right? The procrastination. We divert our energies on something else to elevate the importance. So this all happens because we've numbed ourselves through multitasking. We've numbed ourselves through not making meanings. We've numbed ourselves by not completing tasks. And so we can't enrich our knowledge moving forward because we don't really know how we did something because we've not completed it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the DFT method, if I can just go through this now,
Yes.
is it okay?
Yes.
So it's a 7-step methodology that aligns your conscious brain with your unconsciousness. That means getting your Aladdin, your genie, your wish is my command, to align with you, to actually function with you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what are the steps? Step 1 is what we classify as a very important part, which is the inquiry question. So when you first do this particular inquiry question team, the tribe, etc., you will find yourself in a situation where you're contemplating, am I asking the right question, am I getting the right answer? There's a very simple way. After you've started to use the DFT method, you will actually start to refine your inquiry questions as well. It'll become easier and easier. Because the brain, through neuroplasticity, repatterns itself and starts to think in a specific way. So if you've ever been a person who's not been places on time, not turned up on time, not focused, not in the meeting, not got a desired outcome, not been present in a meeting, not been present between husband and wife, partner, etc., or parents, anything like, or friends, then this process will repattern and rewire this in a very integrated way so that it becomes natural to you. And you won't be thinking about it again and again, it just becomes a part of your thinking. Some of my mentees, they utilize the DFT methodology in their methodology. So they acknowledge it, and they what we call recognize it, and they say this is from this methodology, and they use the 7 steps to get people really ultra clear. So the first step 1 is to create what I call an inquiry question. And an inquiry question is very specific. Don't worry if you're listening to me and you don't quite get this. You're welcome to, if it's okay.
I'd love you to share the link.
So if you basically go on to Sukhi Wahiwala, that's S-U-K-H-I, my surname Wahiwala, WAHIWALA.com. On the first page there is a link to the TED Talk, and it's a 20-minute conversation on the TED platform. And what happens is basically, if you would like to listen to my backstory, you're welcome to. It's 20 minutes and 40 seconds. Sorry about the detail. And you basically can watch all of it once. My suggestion is to watch it all, and then scrub it forward it until about 10 minutes, and then watch the 7 steps. And then the third time, scrub it forward to 10 steps, to the 10 minutes line, and listen to each step and stop and pause after each one of them and action them. But don't do it straight away. Watch it all first, let it come in. Then watch the 7 steps with a focus, and then go and listen to one step and stop it, action it, and take each step going through it. And you'll have a 100% success ratio once you've done that 3 steps. So the first point, if I go back to DFT, is literally is the inquiry. So what is the inquiry? Inquiry is when I inquire something of myself. So let's say I've got an overwhelm, and why am I not taking action? Why is it that I am not successful? What is it in my world that I feel I should be doing? And also, how can I get certain things done? How can I start my business? How can I jump ship? And then the final one, what would happen in my life if I didn't? So the what ifs, we call it. What would happen in my life if I didn't take this action? Am I going, on a collision course, etc.? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they're easy ways. The who it's for, why I would do this, the what is the benefit, what specifically am I going to do, how am I going to do this, or instead of take the action do it itself. Or another question would be starting with what would happen in my life if I didn't do it, so a what if. Yes?
Yeah. Right.
So it's an inquiry question. Now there's 2 parts to the inquiry. One is, what is the inquiry? So why is it that I'm not successful? Because most people would stop there. And by the way, this is a very humble conversation. That's not what I'm trying to suggest you are. Maybe you refine it a little after a 3rd or 4th time of getting to the stage. You'll start to think differently. And probably you'll say something like, what specifically is stopping me? And then you've got the second part, which is what we call the context.
Yeah.
The first is the who, why, what. Who, what, why, and when, and how. And then on the other side would be the context.
Yeah.
So why is it that I am not successful in, and then you say property investment, starting or completing my project.
Whatever that might be.
Whatever that
for
is.
you.
Or why is it that I'm always walking around with an overwhelm? And why is it that I'm not taking any action full stop? So, but after you said action full stop, in what context? You must put the context in. So inquiry is based upon an inquiry, but in a context. So if you're just using just inquiry, sometimes it becomes very evasive, it just empties the bin.
Yeah.
And if it's just been contextual and you haven't asked yourself an inquiry, you're not moving forward with that thought.
Yeah.
Right? So can I use one example?
Yeah, of course. Yeah?
So an example property would be, because we've got a property tribe that's following us through at the moment, so why is it, and this is for basically, okay, so let's think about this in a very complex way. So why is it that I believe that I cannot raise any more money to buy the next property? Does that make sense? So how's that? So that's because I know you do the property raising.
One of the biggest challenges of the audience watching here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why is it that I think that I cannot raise more money, more capital to buy the next property? Does that make sense? So the context was to buy the property. Otherwise, if you haven't put the context in, it's already an evasive conversation. You've got no discipline, no focus, no accuracy. You ask the question, and then here's where the rules come in. It's pen and paper time. So it sounds a bit funny, but you have to use a pen because there's a logic which is a general Cartesian logic where he has proven that there's a three-step process of memory, interaction, and engagement. One is your cognitive thought, which we call the energetic thought. And the other one is a physicality. So you need to convert it from up here into your physicality, the muscle combination, turning it from digital into analog, and then you visualize it back into the system again. So you grab a pen and paper, and if you've got a piece of paper, if it's, for example, if you're what we classify as a diagram drawer or a creative type individual, then you turn the diagram, the piece of paper, in a landscape mode, so it's wide. Yeah, you pop it down, and if you're a person who's a list maker, then you just turn it into portrait. Simple as that. So the question goes to the top. If it's a portrait, you write the question at the top. If it's a landscape, then you write the question in the middle. Okay, and the question was your inquiry question. Yeah, so you pop that in there, and now here's what we need: the concentration. Here's where you switch off your mobile phones, you switch off every sort of electronic activity around yourself, and it's pen and paper. And even the greatest that we know, for example, some of our modern time greats, such as Steve Jobs, he used to have a 2-hour window every single day that his door was closed, and even his electronics were switched off. His TV, his laptop, iPad,
all the gadgets,
every single electronic device was switched off, and he worked with pen and paper to get his thoughts out onto a piece of paper. Now, obviously, this comes from the logic of Cartesian and the integration of, now I'm evolving that into the Synegus method. So you grab the paper and you pop it down. Now, here's where you need a discipline to a certain extent. You actually answer the question, but there's a rule. You have to answer the question based upon anything that comes into your brain. I'm not joking. We've had some people who said, why am I not believing that I can raise the finance for the next property? And they start filling the page. And you just start filling the page, and the aim of the game is whatever's in your brain that answers that question at any level, without any excess thinking process, you've got to get it out onto that piece of paper. So you just keep writing, keep filling, keep writing, keep filling. You will come across a block which basically means you have what we call a glass ceiling thought. Yeah. You're thinking, I think I've written everything down. Yeah. You have to push through 2 of those blocks. Yeah. It's the key. You have to break through 1, you have to break through the second. So once you hit the first ceiling, how do you get past that ceiling? You basically ask yourself, you stop writing down anything that's in your brain. Yeah. I've hit the ceiling. I don't know why I'm even doing this. These are the questions that start to come out. What am I doing this for? This is stupid. This is silly. This doesn't really work. And then all of a sudden, once you've booted those few blocking questions out of your brain, you start to flow again. Yeah. So you need to do that twice. Okay? And the aim is not to turn the sheet over, so you've just got to fill the page. If you choose to turn it over, that's your choice, but you just want to fill it out. Yeah. Now here's the real crux. If you're a thinker, you want to not think the solution up here, you just want to empty it on a piece of paper and trust the 7-step process. It's very important. Otherwise what will happen is you'll end up with about 15 things on the page instead of it being completely everything out. So the aim here, we call this stage 1 DFT, it's known as a mind dump. You just put everything out on the piece of paper. You might turn around and in the middle of that turn and say, I fancy the red car. And it's got no relevance to the question, but if it's in your brain, you must write it. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's that important.
So within that, there is nothing called stupid writing something really stupid.
Thank you. Nothing stupid. There's no stupid that comes to anything that comes out of your brain.
Because I've actually done this, so I wanted to kind of convey that to the audience.
So thank you for following the methodology. So the question is, no, nothing stupid. Yeah. So if you're writing something in the middle of answering the question, what is holding me back in my property funding, raising, etc. And then you start to write stuff and you start thinking, it's too bright in this room. It doesn't make a difference. That's no stupid. You write it.
Yeah.
I wish I had a falafel right now. Whatever it is, just throw it out on a piece of paper and trust the process, but you've got to get it out of here.
Yeah.
The rule is empty the bag, this being your bag.
Yeah.
The principle is once you've done that, you take a maximum 2-minute or a 3-minute break. 3 is the max. Do not walk away. Do not get up and run around. Do not leave that, because that will enhance your procrastination, won't it?
Yes.
Empty the process. You stay with it. All we're trying to do is just to refresh the brain.
Yeah.
You could just look out the window.
Yeah.
And you've got a great view here. You can just look at a tree and just get an understanding, or you can see a bird, or listen to some sound. Anything that goes around past you. But that's all you've got to do. 3 minutes. Then we're going to stage 2. Stage 2 is to grab your document, whether it's vertical, in portrait, or in landscape. And by the way, all this is on the TED Talk, so you're not going to miss out on anything, so thank you if that's okay. What you do is now you grab yourself, this is all done in black pen, by the way. Now you grab a red pen. And in the red pen, you read all of what you've written down, and you circle 10 of those answers that are the most important or relevant to your question. So you've asked the question, you think, I know I wrote about the falafel, and I wrote about it not being light enough, that was not relevant. So you just circle 10 of these answers. And here's the discipline. All part of stage 2, write the 10, and then you circle them, then you turn a new piece of paper out, and you write, here's where you don't have, no longer are you going to be in a diagram format, you have to go into listing format. So diagram gets it out. If you're a list, then you stay in list. Now stage 2 onwards is all in list, written lists. So now you basically write those 10 out again on a piece of paper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you grab the first sheet. Now this is where you need a bit of heart. You really have to trust the process. And you grab the sheet and you rip it up, you throw it in the bin. Go straight to this new sheet that says the 10 things on there. And it's as simple as taking a deep breath. Obviously, you've written them again, sorry, I do apologise, in black. You're only circling in red, you're writing in black. And there's a colour for this. If you want to know a bit more about that, then get in touch with Jack or myself and I'll go through that happily. And then you grab a red pen again and you circle, this is stage 3, circle 5 of those 10 and reduce them to the most important again, the most catchy or the most reasoning that come connected with you. After you've done the 5, you turn the page over, you grab your black pen and you rewrite the 5. And you're going to think, what's the purpose of rewriting all this? I can just pick them in my head. This is the problem. Procrastination is created when you're not clear up and you've got too much up in your head. It will numb your clarity. Okay? So circle 5, turn the page over, rewrite the 5 in black pen. This is now step 4. You take a break, grab a red pen again, and you circle the 3 of the most important answers. After circling the 3, you know the drill. Turn it over, grab another piece of paper, rewrite the 3 in order. No particular order, just write them out. Now here is where we have a very clear question. If this is to work out your task list of the day, so you can use the same DFT method, it's unlimited in its adaptability. If you're going to use it to clarify your tasks, what do I need to do today? You're now going to end up with 3, aren't you? 3 outcomes. And then all you've got to do now, in the next stage, is to simply, stage 5, I think it's 6 now, is just to select them in order. Identify their hierarchy of importance and select 1, 2, and 3. And then what you now need to do is number 7, you go and action number 1 until it's completed. And you don't move to number 2. You don't start number 2 and start number 3, because that's defeating the object. You just get into number 1 and you complete number 1, and then you start number 2, complete number 2, and then you start number 3 and complete number 3. There's your action plan. And you repeat the DFT method 100 times a day if you want, and you'll get quicker and quicker and quicker. It'll probably last you about 15 minutes to start the first time, maybe 20. But once you've done it once, twice, maybe 5 or 6 times, half a dozen times, you will start to get down to about 5 minutes. And really, to be honest, you'll do it in minutes thereafter. Because your brain will get trained and rewired, as in neuroplasticity. It will rewire the way you're thinking. This process, Jack, creates a connection with your unconscious intuition, with your cognitive thinking processes, and it becomes unbelievable with action-taking results. And now, if you're a person who's trying to work out the single reason what's holding you back, if you go back to step six, you had 3. Step 5 you have 3, and step 6, what you now do is you circle the 1 item and you rewrite it. By the way, you will maybe find the answer already, but you stick to the process, because this whole process is completion.
Yes.
Again, you're teaching yourself to multitask, not complete.
Yes.
So complete the process, trust the process, please. It really works. And then you go down to the top 3, circle the 1, rewrite the 1, throw away all the other papers. Chuck them away. Even if you're about to think, well, I can do with the answers again, trust yourself. If you've got a memory problem, this process increases your memory. It helps you remember everything, because you've done it once, your brain starts to get into an exercised mode, neuroplasticity, to recall cognitive activity, cognitive memory. It's just amazing. It changes your world. If I've got any if I'm successful in any way in this humble world, this is the core that straightens my brain, my thinking, my process. Everything becomes linear, and it becomes natural as opposed to mechanical. It becomes in flow. When you've got that one last thing, if you eliminate that last answer, this is if you've got a problem, why am I not being successful in property? It'll give you the answer. Eradicate that in the sense of act upon removing it, and I principally guarantee you will start to take action. This can be repeated daily. That's what it's called, daily focused time. It can be repeated every single minute of the day. You can do this every single task. Every time you change your business model, you can ask this question. So you can ask yourself a simple question. This can actually be used within relationships. You can say, what is it particularly that's stopping our relationship from working? But the game, what particularly, and the relationship, giving the context, and you follow the same process. And what we'll end up doing, you'll end up saying something specific. If you've got a partner problem, you'd sort of say, in our business, what is the one thing that's making me despise my business partner? Or what is the one thing that's making me not trust my business partner? And you'll end up with the one thing, and all you've got to do then is to be active on that and share it with your partner, and all of a sudden the partner will say, oh my God, is that it? I'll stop that. And then ask them to do the same, and they'll tell you, and you both evolve and work together. I hope this is helping the audience.
It really is a great strategy. I think I've used once, actually not once, I've used it a couple of times, but I haven't used it in as much depth as you have just explained. And it really works, as much as I did. Even I remember when I was, offloading the bag that you, like you said, it really, really does work. When you come down to sort of 1 or 3 things that really need to get done, it really, really does work.
Thank you.
So
there's a little metaphoric answer to this. If you walk around with a bag in your hand, and you've got, let's say, a load of information inside that bag. Let's say I asked you to guess what's in the bag, Jack. You'd probably be at least 50, if not 60% accurate what's in the bag, right? But if I then gave you one stage and said to you one step further and said, Jack, put your hand inside. Don't look, rummage around and see whether you can find more things. You might find a bit of sticky chewing gum or a pen that you thought you'd lost, or a top to a pen, that kind of thing, anything like that. And would that logically increase the percentage of what you know is in the bag? From 60 to maybe 85? Yes? Is that fair?
Yeah.
But if I now turned around and said, Jack, why don't you grab this bag, open it up fully, and empty it on the table? Everything out. And here's your hand, rummage around, make sure everything's out. Now, you've got all the contents of the piece of paper on the table, your bag is in front of you, and what if I now said, Jack, you take the choice of whatever you want back in your bag?
That's right.
Would I say that you know 100% what's in your bag?
Just gives you so much more clarity.
Because you've connected consciousness and unconsciousness in that moment of clarity, but in that moment of making real meaning. And then all of a sudden, there's your brain, refined, no shrapnel, no disempowerments, no issues. This, you don't have to go through all of these mindset challenges of, I'm going to put myself a lovely saying on my wall, and I'm going to go through daily routines of saying that you're the best, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And I'm using specific words for a reason, because I don't want to encompass other people's thoughts. You don't want to run through positive mind statements all the time, because you've chosen what to put in your bag. And all the shrapnel, those rubbish, if you do this daily in the morning, I guarantee you that your brain will become as refined as your bag and clean and tidy. And all you'll have is nothing but function and action. You have love and emotion, which you can access your emotion I hope this is helping anyway. So just
no, it really does help. Like I said, I think that at the core, it's all about implementing this. I know a lot of people who would know this, but they don't actually physically pick up the pen and paper and do it. And when I say not just doing it, but really conscious focus at getting it done. Because once you really get down to those three, the amount of the sort of clarity you're going to get to be more productive is amazing. And it has worked for me. I think it has worked for Sukhi sir as well, as he's sharing it with us. And it will definitely work for you too. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And there's something I'd like to add in a very humble way. This is not about giving you something new. It's not about fixing what you think or I think is broken. This is about you connecting with your inner light to realise that am I conscious at this moment, and is this going to help me? It is a new process. It is my process, and it does work. There is nothing like this. It's not similar to something else. It's a very deep, nearly 20 plus different psychologies that are integrated in this process. There's only 7 steps visual. But here's the point. This product, it works if you believe it works, and it works if you trust it. But the whole purpose of this principle, or the 7 steps of the DFT method, is to turn what you do have inside of yourself, at any level, in sense of processes, procedures, it turns them into active, valuable methodologies, something that serves you, parameters that serve you. So the whole purpose of this methodology, and I hope our interview, was to ignite and move people forward into their own whatever they call success. Does that make sense? And that's basically achieving what they set out to do, which is the bottom line. That's the principal understanding of success, of achieving what you set out to do. The moment you get a completion, you are successful in something, whether it's financial, emotional, whether it's health, whether it's anything you want. And so they're the principles that I would suggest very strongly. If anybody would like to reiterate any of that, they're welcome to reach out to me. I'm actually one of the odd people who can really connect.
Sure. So share with our audience, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you? If you have workshops, where can they find you to attend one of your workshops?
That'd be wonderful. If any of this has helped, thank you, Jack, for having me on your platform.
Thank you.
If any of this has actually helped, because I am a property investor as well, and I assist thousands actually now with real sincere gratitude across the globe. We've assisted individuals who were thinking they wanted to get a business, people from a professional background who wanted to take that jump, and I've also helped healed individuals to maximise their portfolio and actually get themselves into a better position. So whether they're a one property purchaser or whether they're a 100 plus property purchaser, we just need to get the right strategy that manages for them. But it's not just about the strategy that works, it's about the strategy that works for you personally. It's an alignment and it's an adaptation to the strategy to make sure it functions for you. So if anybody would like to reach out and get a hold of me, there are 2 or 3 different ways. Obviously, we have the traditional route of looking on the website, which is www.Sukhi Wahiwala, which I've already shared.
I'll be giving a link at the bottom, yes.
.com. Alternatively, you can actually, would you believe, direct text me on 07976 200 193, and that will come straight to my mobile phone, and it's my real number. If you text me, I will respond back. Please don't try to cold call, because that gets quite hard, because my phone could be off if I'm in a meeting. And so if you actually give me a text, always sign off with your name. You won't believe how many thousands of texts I get every single month asking me to help them with no name.
and Sukhi said does not answer the phone unless he's actually expecting a call. So just so you know, I've called him many times. He doesn't answer the phone unless he's actually expecting my call.
And then I'll pick it up straight away. Thank you for that. Yes, it's true. That's actually a part of that whole process is a part of our own clarity and overwhelming my thought process. It's a part of the DFT training. If I can share, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but actually
it'll be out in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay. So then.
So thank you, Sukhi sir, for coming to the show. I'll be leaving links of how you can find Sukhi sir, where can you follow him. I'll also leave the link to the workshop for you to book yourself in. I think if you're watching this and if you watch the whole video, you must have seen the value Sukhi sir can add to your life. I personally believe in people who have actually implemented on the ideas they've had in their life, and I've seen Sukhi sir actually implement every single thing that he said on the show, that he's shared with you, and on the TED platform and on many other platforms that he's shared with you. He actually implements every single thing. So I'll be leaving all the links for you to be able to follow Sukhi sir and to be able to book yourself on the workshop. So yeah, once again, thank you for coming to the show, sir. Thank you.
Did you want me to give the number?
I would appreciate if you could give us your mobile number there, so people could text you and get...
Start again. Just that last bit, yeah?
Yeah. Could you share with the audience the mobile number that you gave earlier so people could text you and get booked for your workshop?
Absolutely fine. So if you would like to get hold of me directly, you can just ring me on UK, obviously it's +44, but 07976, and then it's 200, that's 200 193. And that will actually get through to myself directly. Please do text me, if you don't try to call, but if you do text me, I will respond back to you. And a gentleman called Gary Setterfield, who is the head of our logistics and general manager, he will communicate with yourself personally and myself directly. I'll speak to you first and then you'll connect there. But just tell me you came via Jack, and the benefit would be it'll be something that I understand you've already read and understood about me, and then I can talk openly with that as well. Alternatively, please do follow, if you wish to, do follow me on Facebook. It's Sukhi Wahiwala. There's an official like page. Most of my actions and stuff are posted on there as well by a team. And if you'd like to Instagram follow me, you're welcome as well. Like just do mood boosts and stuff of that sort of nature that I'm up to. And that's also again at Sukhi Wahiwala. And my Twitter handle is the same as well, at Sukhi Wahiwala. And there's another one with Twitter, is at Sukhi Mentor. So whichever you choose to follow, I'm here to help. Whatever it is,
that's great.
I'll definitely assist.
This is with much gratitude. So yeah, thank you again, once again, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Here we go. I love to see the edit.
Could you share with the audience the mobile number that you gave earlier so people could text you and get booked for your workshop?
Absolutely fine. So if you would like to get hold of me directly, you can just ring me on UK, obviously it's +44, but 07976, and then it's 200, that's 200 193. And that will actually get through to myself directly. Please do text me, if you don't try to call, but if you do text me, I will respond back to you. And a gentleman called Gary Setterfield, who is the head of our logistics and general manager, he will communicate with yourself personally and myself directly. I'll speak to you first and then you'll connect there. But just tell me you came via Jack, and the benefit would be it'll be something that I understand you've already read and understood about me, and then I can talk openly with that as well. Alternatively, please do follow, if you wish to, do follow me on Facebook. It's Sukhi Wahiwala. There's an official like page. Most of my actions and stuff are posted on there as well by a team. And if you'd like to Instagram follow me, you're welcome as well. Like just do mood boosts and stuff of that sort of nature that I'm up to. And that's also again at Sukhi Wahiwala. And my Twitter handle is the same as well, at Sukhi Wahiwala. And there's another one with Twitter, is at Sukhi Mentor. So whichever you choose to follow, I'm here to help. Whatever it is,
that's great.
I'll definitely assist.
This is with much gratitude. So yeah, thank you again, once again, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.